Welcome back into the second part of Cluster 8 Curriculum Development Series. This video will focus on why and how we collect information where you'll be performing a practical task in your next placement block. Before we can plan our program, we need to know the child that we are planning the program for. This can only be done through careful observation as well as recognizing the different factors that may affect the child's learning directly and indirectly. To support you in your theory quiz, when you see the light bulb symbol, this indicates that the information being discussed in that slide relates directly to one of the quiz questions. Gathering information about each child is an essential part of our role as early childhood educators. The insights we gathered will help us plan and develop meaningful learning opportunities for individuals and groups of children based on their unique learning and developmental needs. Let's take a look at the planning cycle to understand more about gathering and analyzing information about the child. The Early Years Learning Framework Planning Cycle refers to the process of gathering and analyzing information as assessment of and for children's learning. Through the many ways of gathering information about children from either primary or secondary sources, educators use a variety of strategies to collect, document, organize, synthesize, and interpret the information that they gather to assess children's learning. They search for appropriate ways to collect rich and meaningful information that depicts children's learning in context, describes their progress, and identifies their strengths and skills and understanding. In our daily work as educators, we make observations about children's current strengths, interests, and development formally and informally. We observe children in their play and interaction with the different spaces to analyze their play patterns, interests, and current abilities. We capture their interactions with adults and children to discover who they learn from and who they share their learning with. Examples of sources of information include, but not limited to, your own observations, samples of children's work, audio and video recordings, discussions with children, families, and educators and other professionals, and other documentation like enrollment forms and family interviews. Let's have a brief look at different types of observations method educators use when documenting children's learning and development. It is best practice to use a variety of observation methods as this allows educators to assess the child's overall development. What do observations reveal? Regardless of the type of observation methods you use, your documentation should always reveal information about the child's behavior and learning, interactions, relationship with other children and educators, play preferences, strengths and interests, vulnerabilities, and cultural practices. So what skills do you need to perform observations? A positive attitude and an open mind, a strong belief in children as capable learners, an appreciation of the value of play as learning, the ability to interact effectively with children, knowledge of developmental theories and detailed knowledge of predictable childhood development sequences, any understanding of child's learning styles. You can refer to page 427 of the Frameworks for Learning and Development textbook for more details about those skills. Analyzing information gathered involves interpreting and making meaning of the information you have collected and evidence documented. When analyzing information gathered, there are a number of key questions to consider. What does the information you have collected tell you about the child's strengths, interests, and needs? What learning is taking place? How are you supporting this play and learning? What learning outcomes are being promoted or could be promoted? What intentional teaching strategies could you use to enhance children's learning? How could you involve the other children? How could the environment better support and extend children's learning and development? What resources and materials might extend children's learning in play? You can refer to page 436 to 443 of the Frameworks for Learning and Development textbook for more details about analyzing and interpreting observation. Information in this slide relates to question 1 of your Cluster 8 theory quiz. Let's look at an example. An objective record reports what actually occurred rather than what you think has happened or how you feel about what you have observed. It requires a non-judgmental approach to ensure that the child is not being labeled in a negative or positive way. By doing this, your report will be free from bias. To provide a fair and factual account, an objective record must not include personal opinions. When a record is neutral and objective, the reader can easily understand what has occurred. There is no need to record why you think the child did or something, or what did you expect they were thinking. This is an example of a subjective record. Johannes is completing a puzzle, but it's too hard for him. The kid from Afghanistan, Asa, came to see what Johannes is doing. They start wrecking the puzzle. They're very cheeky and won't let Noma, the infant, come near the table. Johannes pushes Noma away and hurts her. These boys are very naughty. As you can see, it's biased, it's inaccurate, it uses negative language. When assessing children, it is important for us to be aware that curriculum decisions must meet the Education and Care Services national law and regulations and the national quality standards. Regulation supports national law by providing a range of operational requirements. As part of the delivery of education programs, documentation is required, and Regulation 74 specifies what must be documented. Information includes assessment of child's developmental needs, interests, experiences, and participation in the educational program, and assessment of child's progress against the outcomes of the educational program. This regulation also requires that documentation is prepared in a way that is readily understandable by educators at the service and the parents of the child. In addition, making curriculum decisions is relevant to all 7 quality areas of the National Quality Standards, with a particular focus on 3 key standards from Quality Area 1, Educational Program and Practice. Regulation number 181 states how information collected should be kept and shared. The rights to confidentiality and privacy of the child and the family is also outlined in Early Childhood Code of Ethics. We as educators must respect the privacy of children and their parents and other educators while ensuring that they access high-quality early years care and education. Some ethical considerations include each child has unique interests and strengths and the capacity to contribute to their communities. Effective learning and teaching is characterized by professional decisions that draw on the specialized knowledge and multiple perspectives. Play and leisure are essential for children's learning and development and well-being. Information in this slide relates to question 4 and 5 of Cluster 8 Theory Quiz. Thank you, and hope this series has helped you understand more about gathering information for children's learning and development. You can read more about the topic in your prescribed textbook Frameworks for Learning and Development. In the next video episode of Cluster 8 series, you will discuss how we analyze the information gathered.